Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Way Out Radio. Thanks so much for joining us today. It's a pleasure to be with you. We got the Hertfordshire band, formed 2002, on the show today. The Subways, absolutely amazing. Now set to release their 5th album, Fight, on Alcopop Records. These guys have supported AC/DC, Foo Fighters, Oasis. They've brought us hits like Rock and Roll Queen, Oh Yeah, Girls and Boys. Mate, it's the Subways, everyone. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you
Hello.
so much.
Thanks
It's
for
such a
having us.
pleasure to be here.
No worries at all, man. Yeah, like you both look super smiley today. How have you managed to get through this last situation?
I'm riding high at the moment because we played I played an acoustic set in Kingston upon Thames last night, and it was like the first time I've actually performed for an audience, and we had this Q&A.
Wow.
And it was just so wonderful, and I went to bed with this massive smile on my face, and I've woken up with this huge smile on my face, and it was really nice, wasn't it, Charlotte?
Yeah, it was. It almost felt like doing a gig. Like, it was almost actually, I know it was a gig, but I was almost transported to Kingston from my living room. It was amazing last night.
Yeah.
Wicked.
We got these really lovely questions from the fans, and we all left the gig afterwards just like, we've got the loveliest fans, they're so lovely.
Yeah, no, amazing, man. And it was like the anniversary, wasn't it, of Rock and Roll Queen? Was it 15 years?
Yeah, so last year, and what we did to celebrate 15 years since the release of Rock and Roll Queen, we re-recorded it and put it up on Bandcamp. And I've been over the course of the last couple of years getting more and more into Bandcamp. That's where I get most of my songs now. Like, I've been getting into all these different kinds, like all these different genres, like, you know, soundscapes and, you know, soundtracks and synthwave and all that stuff.
Wicked.
And it's all because I've just got so obsessed with Bandcamp. So I was like, let's do this thing where we release a 15th anniversary version of Rock and Roll Queen. We'll call it Rock and Roll Queen 2020, and we'll just put it up on Bandcamp. And we recorded it in 20 different languages as well, because we spent the last 15 years touring the world, and because it's such a simple lyric, you know, you are the sun, you are the only one, you are so cool, you're so rock and roll. I thought I can try that in different languages every place we go. So, you know, whenever we're in Czech Republic, I'll sing it in Czech, and everyone will either laugh or sing along, you know. But you know, by the time we sort of got into the latter part of our career, before we took our hiatus in 2016, all the different countries we went to, they realized that I was going to do it. So they'd all learn it and sing along with me in their language. We were really happy with the recording. And it was just really good fun to sort of be able to cast our minds back over the last 15 years and celebrate it.
Yeah, I think if you go to a different country, and even if you can just say hello and thanks for coming in their language, like, it means so much to people. So to do that, like to do such an iconic song in all these people's different languages is like beautiful. And I bet people just absolutely appreciated it so much.
Yeah, I think like it's weird because, you know, English is such a universal kind of global language, and people
we just
learn
bullied
it as
everyone
second nature.
into it.
We pretty much, haven't we? We just bashed people around the heads with our English. You know, if they don't understand, we just say it louder.
Loud and slow.
Yeah, exactly. So
bad.
I've considered it like a matter of course whenever we go anywhere, just to learn like the basics, which for me is like, can I have a coffee, please? You know, that's the first thing I learn. And Charlotte's amazing at languages as well, so she absolutely nails them every single time. But when we're on stage, we always, or before we go on stage, we go up to our promoter of that particular venue, or that country if it's like a one-off gig, and we'll go, please, we need to learn these crucial sentences because we want to speak the language of the people to whom we're playing. We think it's only polite for us to make an effort, because there are so many instances of bands going abroad and just going like, hello, we are blah, 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 and just cracking on and expecting just, you know, straight out off for people to understand English. And for a lot of people, that's not necessarily the case. And though they might like the music and they'll sing along to maybe the chorus, they don't actually know a lot of English. So whenever we've gone somewhere, we learn at least, what is it, like 5 sentences, Charlotte? I learn like everybody clap and everybody jump and that kind of stuff. But Charlotte,
cool.
you do whole sentences, don't you?
Well, I just learn we love you, because everyone likes to be told.
Everyone wants to be told that.
And like, you're amazing, or you're awesome, or, you know, something like that to say to the crowd. Although sometimes though, like you just get like the silence because they're waiting for you to continue because they don't know what you've said.
You tried.
Yeah, but they don't expect you to speak their language. So they're like, something was said, but I didn't quite get all of that, because it's really hard, especially when you go to places like Greece or Czech Republic, where the accent is so integral to the pronunciation. Like if you don't get it, they're like, that was nonsense. But you can hear titterings in the audience, and actually we kind of like it when people laugh at our attempts, because it kind of breaks the tension a little bit, and we like that.
And they know that we're trying. Then I think it's only bad when they have no idea what you're trying to do.
Oh, bless. Nice try, thank you.
Amazing. So like you just said that it's only polite to do something, and I was just like, yes, that encapsulates the way you guys are with the band. You're super polite. Like I've seen a bunch of your interviews, because I thought, I was doing a bit of research, and I just found some mad stuff. Like there was this show in Manchester that you went on with, like, it's called like Johnny Longbottom or something, where he's got a guy with like a paper mache head on.
Frank Sidebottom.
Yeah,
that's him.
Yeah.
And
that was one of my.
That was so funny. He was just like, "What are your names?" He didn't even know your names, or he was pretending not to. And you were just like, "Yeah, we're really excited. We're super happy. We're doing an album." This is like, "Can we play now?"
Well,
and I was like, if it was Liam Gallagher, he'd be like, "Fuck off."
What's up, man? But no, I knew about Frank Sidebottom because Chris Seavey was a big sort of part of 80s and early 90s kind of real kind of Mancunian iconic. Very underground, kind of cool, but also very, very silly music. And I kind of latched onto that because I'm a big fan of John Ronson, and John Ronson actually played with Frank Sidebottom in the early days. He played keyboard for him. So I knew about Frank Sidebottom, and I was like, oh, this is amazing. We're getting interviewed by Frank Sidebottom. And before us, it was Pigeon Detectives, and they're really nice guys, right? But they were knackered because the night before they just played the Manchester Apollo. So they were in the interview and they're like, yeah, whatever. And Frank Sidebottom's trying, and they're like, oh, whatever. So when we got on camera, I was just like, I was like giggling. I was so excited. And I look back at sometimes I like repost the photo of me and Charlotte sat chatting with Frank Sidebottom, because we look like kids, man. We was like looking up at him, and we're sat down. He's playing with this train set.
And he's like, let's have a toy party.
Yeah. So, but we always feel like we've always dreamed of being in a rock and roll band. I wrote Young Fraternity whilst I was collecting the dirty sheets from the hotel rooms in a local hotel, and that was kind of my prospects. My mum, I remember distinctly my mum saying to me after I left school, like, okay, we're gonna have to get you on the council house waiting list or the council flat waiting list. And I was like, give me 18 months and I'm going to try and make something of this rock and roll thing.
Wow.
So when we got signed, or when we got booked for Glastonbury Festival.
It's all right. The list takes about 8 years anyway. So,
Yeah, that's it. I was like, we've got a long time.
Children will have grown up.
Yeah, I'm going to have that box for a good couple of years, yeah. We got the Glastonbury gig in 2004. I was like, right, let's everyone just quit our jobs and go off on tour. And we booked our own tour around the UK, and by the end of that tour we were signed to Warner's, because
wow, that's amazing.
The director of Warner's came to one of our last gigs in Nottingham, and we just sat down for dinner and was like, look, I really want to sign you guys, you're great. Like, great, brilliant, we're going home tomorrow. Sign us. And that was
the
it.
Glory days of the music industry.
I know, man. Where like record deals were everything. So ever since then we've just been like, this is wild. This is amazing. We get to go on planes and get on tour buses and go everywhere, and we've been really lucky because we've made quite a dent in over in Europe and America and Japan, so we get and Russia, so we get to go to those places quite regularly. Very nice. Have you ever heard that Guano Apes cover of Big in Japan? Oh, it's amazing.
I'll check it out.
Yeah, it's so good. So every time we get in, I hear so many times like bands going, oh man, I just want to be home, I'm so tired. I'm like, are you kidding? This is the best thing in the world, And
you have that appreciation. I know I've been in bands with some people who are just not into it, and it just kills the vibe for other people. It's just like you work really hard to get a festival slot, and one person will be like, why are we doing this? And you're just like, just leave. Like,
come on,
why are we not doing this? It's gonna be great, You just got to have that enthusiasm for it, haven't you?
That's it. And you know, we feel it before we go on stage. You know, we hear the intro music go on and giggling and nerves and all that stuff. It's like the height of existence. You know, that's what we live for.
Yeah. And what about you, Charlotte? Because when I was a kid, seeing you guys on MTV and stuff, I mean, it was like you guys, White Stripes, were the only kind of bands with like just kick-ass females in. And I played the drums when I was a kid, and I still do. And my best mate at the time was called Charlotte, and she picked up the bass because of you. And we started a little band just like at school. But it was like, yeah, you know, it was amazing to see you like perform. You always like totally go for it. Like tell me a bit about how you got started.
Oh, that's awesome. Are you still playing now? What's your band called?
At the moment I'm DJing, but I was in a band called Ray Gun.
To check you out.
Love that name.
Cheers.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Wicked.
It's a really simple story. Like I met Billy and Josh, and they were already playing together, and they needed a bass player, and so Billy taught me how to play bass, and I learned by playing Nirvana covers, and that's how we started the band. Like it's a really kind of just simple story of three bored suburban kids wanting something to do. Is my internet going funny for you guys?
It's cutting out a bit, yeah.
Yeah, just a little bit. Do you want to?
So sorry about that. It's normally
All right. We can still understand what you're saying. It's just going a bit like that.
It does sound kind of funky.
Sorry.
She's speaking through a synthesizer
today.
Yeah.
Just
the new Subway's direction.
Vocoder.
So typical. It's been absolutely fine until I actually start speaking, and then
your internet is sabotaging you.
It doesn't want me to be part of it. I'm so sorry. I can try a different network. So if I disappear for a second and come back, is that okay?
Cool.
Yeah, no worries.
We'll wait around.
I'll try something else. Sorry.
She's gone again. So whereabouts are you? That looks like a really cool background that you've got there.
Oh, thanks. This is just my house.
Oh, wicked.
Yeah. So
I love that wallpaper.
Yeah, thank you. I was a bit like, this is kind of, I wanted like royal blue and gold, and it was like, I put it up and I was like, I think it's cool. Or is it a bit like 1980s McDonald's? I'm not sure. I was like, damn.
That's cool though. I love that. I'm a big fan of like industrial architecture.
Yeah,
not necessarily what it entails, but I love that kind of stuff. So I went to my wife and I went to Margate recently, and
that's where my band were from.
Oh really? I love it there because there are like there are still some like relics of derelict buildings and that kind of thing. And I was just taking pictures all the time. I was like, this architecture is so beautiful. It's just amazing.
So many of my friends moved down from London and just like bought these amazing old Georgian houses for like 100k or 170k, like 4-story amazing houses. And they were just like in shit, you know, like pigeons in the wall nesting, like paint a wall and then a pigeon will bust through and all this food will come out, and like they had such a struggle. But like now Margate is just getting there again, where people have refurbished it, but it was really bad for a while.
Yeah, I mean, you can there's a lot of weathering that goes on in coastal towns, and you have to like the painting on the outsides of houses needs to be like industrial standard paint and that kind of thing. But I mean, but I love that. Like when you mentioned McDonald's 80s interior, I was like, love it.
Yeah, my friend had this hotel down in Broadstairs, and she had Carl Barrett stay. She used to have like John Cooper Clarke and like incredible people like that. And Michael Caine stayed, and I used to just go down there and clean the spoons just to be like, hi. I'm just polishing some silver. I'm in a band, by the way.
I just happened to have a demo.
There you go. And then that's how Carl Barrett got the idea to like open the Albion rooms down there, because my friend was just like, you should buy property down here, it's so cheap. And he was like, oh, I'm about to get an advance from Virgin for our next record, which was probably about 4 years ago now, and no album, but they've got a house.
Amazing.
my Cure picture.
Oh, amazing.
Since
I'm
you
such
asked.
a huge fan of The Cure. Oh,
Hello, Charlotte.
Sorry about that. I
That's
hope
right.
it's going to be okay. It's normally absolutely fine up here.
good now.
So it seems to be okay. I
Yeah.
just it's not. I wonder if there's an issue with the internet in my area. So hopefully it holds out. Fingers crossed. It's all right now.
polling day bandwidth is being soaked up from all the messaging.
Yeah.
I just voted. Do you want to shoot for that question again? Do you want to see if you can?
Yeah, cool.
Are you right to answer it again, Charlotte?
Yes. Do you, can you ask it again? Just to
Charlotte.
make sure.
So Charlotte, you're an awesome person in a band.
yeah. You don't have to go for that again.
No, do it. It
Okay.
feeds our ego. It's great.
So how did you get started with the bass, and what were some of the things that got you interested at the beginning?
So I started playing bass when Billy taught me. I met Billy and
Nice.
Josh. They were we were just teenagers at the time, and Josh of course played drums, Billy played guitar, singing, but they needed a bass player, and so Billy taught me how to play bass, and then I learned by just playing my favorite Nirvana songs and any other like bass lines I thought were cool, and then we just started playing covers of our favorite songs, playing at loads of like local venues, and eventually started writing our own songs.
And
it
I
was
asked you
just,
about the Nirvana covers because I heard that you guys started off doing like Nirvana, Green Day, and your early band names were like the Mustard Seeds and Platypus.
that's exactly it. We were like,
dear.
yeah,
We are Platypus. I like it. You were just teasing the SpongeBob generation that was about to come.
Honestly, like, oh my god, Mustard Seed came from Midsummer Night's Dream. So
because we were reading that in school. We were reading that in school at the time. That's how young we were. Like, we're reading this well called Shakespeare. Jan. Let's call us Mustard Seed.
I know this great, really tiny role in Midsummer Night's Dream of this fairy called Mustard Seed. Yeah, Platypus was from Platypus I Hate You off the Nimrod record by Green Day, and we just like landed on the subways because when I was at college, I studied theatre studies for 2 years because I was like, I'm not really massively into academic subjects, and I definitely don't want to go straight into work. So I'm going to take another 2 years and just like do plays. And we
there's
used
school,
to hang out.
There's work, but where do I fit in? I've got to do something else.
2 more years. I need 2 more years to not be in the real world. I took theatre studies, and we used to hang out in Welwyn Garden City, where I grew up. There are these like roundabouts, and they've got these really weird kind of underground connections.
Oh wow.
It's like this little interstate, but they've got the roundabout had this open air roundabout, and we used to hang out there, and there was just a big sign that said subway, like Welwyn Garden City subway, and I thought, oh, the subways, that's pretty cool.
Really cool, because you don't usually see signs that say subway over here, because obviously we have the underground, and I thought, oh, is this an American band when you started?
But that's Welwyn Garden City. It has so many pretensions, like to to what it's not. I mean, I remember reading in I think it's The Road to Wigan Pier by George Orwell, and he was basically saying, like, as he was going around all these various towns in the UK and talking about like the class system and socioeconomic situations of working families. He passed through Welwyn Garden City, and he goes, I just don't want the rest of the UK to end up like Welwyn Garden City, because it's basically, it became like this post-war residential area that was built around a town centre, and it's nice, it's like green and that kind of thing, but it's just so suburban, it's so American suburban, and it was kind of reaching for that, and that's kind of why it's got those signposts. And the Art Deco buildings are incredible, they're really beautiful, but it just reaches for something it can't quite achieve. And one of the reasons we formed the band was because like we just have to get out of here, man, this is like suburban hell. But I have so much affection for Welwyn Garden City now, because we've been so lucky to tour the world, and being back there is kind of, I've just got all these great memories associated with it, of playing like the Doctor's Tonic in this function room above a pub. And there was just this whole scene that formulated in Welwyn Garden City because this small group of people decided they were going to hold like Thursday night acoustic events that eventually turned into like live gigs, and bands like the Fratellis passed through there, and Yeah.
Yeah, nice one.
One of Charlotte's favorite bands.
Yeah, so like you just said, I mean, there's a lot to be said for the way Britain has like grown over the years, and the way, like, say, we've got a lot of big malls now, and the idea behind that psychologically is that, feel safe here, feel comfortable, there's plants, there's things, there's entertainment. But actually, if you went in there and protested, or if you like went in there and basked, it'd be very quickly shut down. Like, there'd be security there, and actually we're not free in those places, it's just an illusion. So that kind of leads me to your new single, Fight. So tell me a bit about, the protesting. It seems to be a bit about, like, there's a reference to Black Lives Matter, like, I Can't Breathe at the end. And of course, we've all been through lockdown, and women's rights as well is a big issue that we're talking about. So what were you thinking with that track?
Well, basically, like, it came from, I went to uni between 2016 and 2019. We kind of took a hiatus, and I begged these guys. I was like, please, I'm really getting into books. I want to go to uni. And they were like, oh, whatever, go on then, off you go. 3 years without Billy, brilliant. So I went off to uni, and during that time, I got the chance, because we were always off on tour. And as much as I want to go on these marches to fight for, rights and freedoms of marginalized people in society, against war and all that kind of stuff, we can't, because we're so absent. And whilst I was at uni, I was like, no, I'm going to attend as many marches as I could. So, when it came to decolonizing the curriculum, making space for more marginalized voices on the academic curriculum, I was like, yep, get my feet on the ground and go there. When it was about divesting from fossil fuel industries and that kind of thing, I was marching, and it just felt so great to feel like you're sort of putting your feet on the ground, you're putting your body in the way, and you're making doing things, doing action for change. And my friend, who I grew up with, a lifelong friend called Claire, who grew up in Welwyn Garden City, and she used to come to all our gigs. But she's mixed race, and she's grown up largely amongst a group of white people. And she saw that the Black Lives Matter marches were going to be taking place in 2020. And she messaged me on Facebook and just said, look, no one I know is going to these Black Lives Matter marches. And actually everyone I know, all my friends, are just ripping it to pieces. And I never knew how conservative minded they all are. Do you happen to be going to these marches? And I was like, yeah, please come along. It'd be great to. I was planning to just go by myself, and I really like attending marches by myself and just walking, singing, meeting new people. But I was like, look, come along. It'd be great. And it was her first ever protest and her first ever march. Cool. And we were on our way to the US Embassy, because it was directly as a result of George Floyd's murder. So we were going to protest outside the US Embassy against heavy-handed policing methods, and basically state-sanctioned murder, because white policemen have such a stranglehold on the way that they sort of implement governmental policy, which is for centuries now marginalized and oppressed people of color, Black people, and up until 20th century women. So we were marching to the US Embassy, and she had this placard that she made in secret. She didn't post pictures or anything like that, because even she hid it from her parents. And before she left for the march, her parents were like, where are you going? She said, I'm going to the Black Lives Matter marches. And they went, oh, that's amazing, congratulations. She had no idea that they were going to react so positively. She went, look, I've made these placards. And she showed me a picture. She was like, this is the first time my parents have ever been really political about anything. And I had no idea they were going to be so supportive. But we were crossing, I think it was Chelsea Bridge. I can't remember which bridge it was now. And she turned to me, and everyone is singing the slogan from her placard. And I could just see her body, her spirit was swelling, nice. She turned to me, and it made me cry, and it's going to make me cry now. But she said, for the first time in my life, I feel like I have the language to speak about my experience as a mixed race person. And it shook me out of my apathy, out of my privilege and all that sort of stuff. And I just went, the first thing I'm going to do when I get home is I'm going to write a song, and it's not going to be about me. It's going to be about a cause. It's going to be about something bigger than me. And so it was probably the first song I've ever written that doesn't have I in it, because I've always been so insular and like, I have this propensity to write songs about unrequited love. Ever since I first heard Smokey Robinson, The Miracles tracks of My Tears, I've always been like, oh, isn't that an amazing feeling? Love.
Yeah.
And now I was just like, no, this has to be done. I will never forgive myself if I don't write about this moment. And I wanted to show solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement and members of the Black community and all marginalized communities as a privileged white male in a rock band. And heaven knows, everybody knows that we white men have been at the forefront of rock and roll since its incarnation, since its creation as well, and that it's time that we stepped aside and passed the mic over and started talking about stuff that's not just us. And that's why, when it came to releasing Fight, it's not just about us saying, okay, here's a song that we're writing that's about Black Lives Matter. Coming from our perspective, we handed our B-side of the vinyl over to an incredible band called the Nova Twins.
Nova Twins, yeah.
Yeah, I think they're making the best music since Nirvana. They are just sublime. And, I've been a big fan of them since my wife, Rowena, played me one of their songs on her Riot Diet show on Boogaloo Radio. And I used to co-host every now and then, when I was at uni. So it was a good couple of years ago now. And I was like, oh my Lord, who the hell is this? And she was like, it's Nova Twins, this Southeast London band, 2 Black women, and they are kicking ass, man. They are so good. So we were like, it's time for us to step aside and talk about their experiences on a first-hand basis. So yeah, that's basically what Fight is about. It was just us saying, like, we have to talk about this. The first single back for our new album has to be devoted to this incredibly important issue, because there is no progress without us finally holding to account the powers that are oppressing these marginalized communities.
Yeah, 100%. No, it's a really amazing track. And the B-side is the Nova Twins interview, and you've got a political activism zine as well with that.
Yeah. So I wanted to, because it's very easy to do the research and then suddenly go, oh, by the way, this issue is really important, and make out that you actually know everything. And I think what's really important for me is to say, like, I've made mistakes. I've maybe campaigned in the wrong way. I've used language that isn't necessarily helpful to the cause. So I wanted to include a booklet that says, like, these are the people that really helped me out in trying to find a language that really will benefit the cause, and more than anything, actually properly help the communities as part of the discourse. So I included authors like Cornel West, absolutely incredible Marxist philosopher, who at the moment is kind of waging this righteous fight at Harvard University to try and get tenure. The guy is possibly one of the smartest people in the world, and they are absolutely refusing to give him tenure, even though he is more than qualified. And one of the reasons is because they're Harvard University are a far-right university, and they've kind of excluded a big section of Black people in academia from gaining tenure and being able to conduct their research with proper funding and that kind of thing. But also Ava DuVernay's work has really helped educate me, particularly her Netflix film, The 13th, which it tells you that, okay, since the Emancipation Proclamation over in America, since like over here with William Wilberforce and the abolition of slavery, there is still the hangover of these racist thoughts, of these colonialist thoughts, that maybe even though we think, oh no, we're in a better place now, there's no slavery, it's like, actually there's just slavery in different forms. There is oppression in much more insidious forms that we need to think just a little bit harder about. But I've also included,
Primark is slavery, isn't it?
It pretty much. I mean, this is the thing, is like we're all indirectly participating in these larger structures that are actively
making the people at the top, powerful. Like if you work at Argos, there's probably 10,000 of you on the tills, and you've got to hit these targets for no reason apart from to still get the same, £5 an hour. But then at the top, it's just there's 10 people going, we want our profit. You need to sell more. Otherwise, we're going to make you feel like fear that you're going to lose your job for £8 an hour or whatever. It's like, wow.
But this is it. I mean, the inherent problem with capitalism is the obsession with profit margin. It's like they don't just want to make a profit. They want to double the profits of last year. like and if they don't do that, the shareholders aren't happy, and you're just like, this is no way to go about, like, you know, creating an economy, especially when you're sort of holding to ransom the most vulnerable people in society. So yeah, you know, I think we have a certain amount of power when it comes to like making our choices of where we buy our goods and, you know, where we invest our money. But also I think like we need to look at the larger structures, which are the most powerful, you know, in the same way that, you know, when I was kind of marching for divestment of fossil fuel industry from the colleges, you know, a lot of these university colleges are receiving funds from these huge companies, and what they're doing is they're indirectly approving the actions of these companies. And you have to ask the bigger structures, as much as we want to do on the ground, as much as we want to fight for workers' rights, nothing is going to change unless we tell the powerful people that their profits aren't more important than people, that actually if they start caring about their workforce, they benefit as well, because productivity, right? If productivity is all they're concerned about, then they actually need to invest in their workforce properly. But these are larger systemic issues. And one of the things with the zine that I wanted to talk about as well was that, like, privilege is an intersectional thing. I struggled quite a lot with coming to terms with my own privilege, because I was like, well, I was in social housing, my family were on benefits, I was state schooled, and I was heavily dependent on the NHS. So I'm not privileged, but it's like, okay, but that's just one section of how we consider ourselves privileged. I'm privileged because when I walk down the street, I'm not immediately suspected of, you know, maybe robbing someone's house because of like the systemic racism that's associated with Black members of the community because of the color of my skin. You know, that there are deeper, more indirect ways that we need to think about how others are oppressed. So, you know, making mistakes is okay. Correcting those mistakes is even better. Yeah, I wanted to include women's rights, animal rights, LGBTQIA rights,
the whole shebang.
The whole shebang, because this is like, you know, climate change as well. I mean, I'm very big on intersectional politics, so I genuinely don't believe like climate change policy is going to work unless it is intersectional, unless it takes into account how there are portions of the globe, you know, entire nations that are being enslaved, whose resources are being stolen from them. Unless we consider those as well, then we aren't going to move anywhere close to where we need to be in terms of like tackling climate change. So with the zine, I just wanted to say there's a larger discussion here that maybe the song isn't dealing with properly.
Yeah, definitely. And we can like unite in a way that we never could before with the internet, because you know, although it can be negative in the sense of like sucking your time through social media, if you think about it, step back, get a bit sick of looking at pictures, and then actually engage, you can find the right groups that you need to be in and get the right information that you want, which is really cool.
Sorry, I'm so sorry. Please, no, go ahead. I've talked enough.
That's right. No, I just wanted to ask Charlotte, on the strength of like the women's rights part and you being in such a big band. I mean, what was your experience in the music industry? Because a lot of women have come out saying that they were treated like they weren't equally treated with the boys, and I've had my own experiences of people just sort of saying that you haven't got any talent, and then like seeing me on stage and being like, I'm sorry, you can do something, but they just sort of brush you off. What's your experience?
I think I think you've summed it up really well there. I think there's an assumption that you have a lesser ability and that you are not on the same level as male musicians, and kind of a surprise, like, oh, actually, she's not bad for a girl, you know, that kind of thing, which is, it's just, I think it starts to, it's it is patronizing, that's true, and it kind of just you have to try really hard not to believe it, because sometimes if you hear it so many times, you start to believe it yourself, and it kind of
totally,
and that's really unfair. And I think I also think kind of the attention put on women in bands is different to men. Do you know, kind of, I feel like you can't put a foot wrong, otherwise you'll just get like shut down for it. Whereas like a male in the exact same situation could make mistakes and not be treated in the same way, I think.
Yeah, and like if you've got a Lemmy type figure, which is like, or an Ozzy Osbourne type figure, we look back and we go, he was actually a pretty bad person because he strangled his wife, you know. But everyone's like, what a legend. And I don't think a woman could recover in such a way. Do you know what I mean?
That's 100%.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
like, you know, this, I think one thing that we've tried to do over the course of our career is like really try and punch and crack away at this mythical rock icon idea that people have. And
Yeah.
so like their mistakes and their really abhorrent behavior is actually like part of their mystique. And it's like, no, this is poisonous, toxic behavior that is really detrimental to all the people they're impacting.
Yeah.
And you know, I wrote it's not actually like that heavy-handed, but I wrote a song on the new album, which is talking about like how I've for the sake of my own mental health and for all our mental healths, and particularly Charlotte's, who's, you know, the way that the media has discussed Charlotte's image and her performances in relation to mine and Josh's has been downright offensive. I mean,
yeah,
like sickening. And there was one review that we read, I won't mention who it was from or the publication, but we were still young. Yeah. Okay. So there was a writer there who was known for being a big drinker, druggy, and he had this section in the Enemy which is like, this guy goes out and parties with all the bands, and like, you know, his reviews are off the cuff, and but we read a review and he was basically talking about putting his hands down his pants whilst he was watching our band on stage because of Charlotte, and we were 18 or 19. Whoa. He's talking about a 19-year-old girl.
What a pervert.
And we were halfway through recording our first album, and it shook us for weeks, man. We would as a man, as you know, it shook me. I have no idea how it must have affected Charlotte. I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot here, Charlotte. It's not your responsibility to talk about.
There was nothing about your image that was sexualizing. It was like you're rock and roll, you know, full on energy, talented. And you're not like coming on in a bikini like, hello, lads. It was obviously like, this is a serious musician. And that's what I loved about you, because that hadn't been seen before, really, in my world. And I was just like, yeah, you know, like, respect this person. It's so bad that people still were just like being ogly. It's like, come on.
Yeah, so whenever I'm asked about kind of how I was treated as a woman in the industry in the early days, I think the thing I found hardest was the media's reaction to me, because I am quite energetic and enthusiastic. There was something about that seemed to offend some certain people, and I don't really know why.
I think it's great.
Yeah, me too.
But I feel like if you think about other men who give that sort of performance, they aren't treated in that way. They're kind of seen as like, oh, it's amazing, and then there's just something about it that I don't know.
Yeah, they wouldn't be like JJ Burnell, stand still, would they?
Yeah, it's more like do your thing, isn't it? You know.
And I think I stopped reading it a long time ago, to be honest. Because it's like it's not gonna change me. Like, I like doing what I do, and I like expressing myself in this way, and don't really
can't control what other people write, and it would do your head in if you were just like, oh my god, you know, 200,000 people have just read this or something, and like, it would freak you out. Like, I can imagine it would be horrible. It's bad enough with the internet today, like, you can see how it's affecting kids, how they're just so unhappy, like, with their body image and stuff, but because they're just constantly being judged, it's like so insane. Like, it's awful.
I mean, the way the media or actually like online platforms, and the way the media uses online platforms to shame women. I mean, you just look at the way that Billie Eilish has just been portrayed by certain newspapers. I won't name any, but you know, for a while she was saying, I like to cover up my body and I like to have this punk look, and she's just done this incredible Vogue shoot, which is her claiming her autonomy, her femininity, whatever that means, you know, and she looks absolutely amazing. And so newspapers are going, oh, what a hypocrite. And it's like, Do you not understand what it means to
Mm.
be someone who claims autonomy? It means being able to change your mind, to grow as a person.
Yeah,
to
the very
progress.
industry that force women to change their image about 10 times a year. Like, oh, she's the same, she's washed up. Oh, Madonna, you know, like she has to change her image
Yeah.
all the time. Like Miley Cyrus, Lady Gaga. There's so much pressure on these people to change their image, like, you know, 10 times more than men. And it's like, you perpetuated that, and
Yeah.
then she changes her image one time and you're just like, what a hypocrite.
Yeah, they absolutely lose their minds. I mean, but there's you know, I know I don't face as much kind of indirect oppression where it comes to like society looking at me and sexualizing me and objectifying me in the way that women do. I still feel it's kind of my responsibility to talk about my mental health online, because I think there's this kind of idea that male rock stars, and like I think it's Mike of Royal Blood has been absolutely amazing in talking about his alcoholism, and how, you know, as being the front man in a band, you're inclined to partake in, you know, post gig drinks, and there's kind of like a culture surrounding being a rock star, and he's kind of going, no, actually this is really unhealthy, and it really brought me to the brink of death, and I want to change. I'm sober. And when I first became sober, it was really difficult because, you know, we do sign intents and that kind of thing, especially over in Europe. And, you know, the people would be drinking and going, oh, drink this, drink that. And I'd be like, look, I don't drink. And they'd be going, oh, you're not rock and roll. And I kind of just like, I spend every single day of my life playing rock and roll on stage. Please don't tell me I'm not rock and roll. So it's kind of, we want to be part of a movement that, however small or big that is, of just breaking these stereotypical ideas, these reductive ideas of what it means to be a rock star, what it means to be a man or a woman in the music industry. And I think Charlotte's an incredible role model for women. I can't tell you how many times I've you know, opened up my phone on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter and seen messages saying, Charlotte is the reason I play music. She's the reason why I decided I want to pick up a guitar. And so many of those young women have turned into musicians and big musicians these days. And it's just so wonderful to see. And, you know, Charlotte is such a quiet person for all the incredible talent that she has. And actually, she's probably quiet because I just spend most of my time talking at her, but and telling her how great she is. But she is like, you know, she sort of just blossoms with talent, and that's why, you know, that we've got so used to just going, do you know what? If anyone says anything against Charlotte, it's probably because they're jealous. So.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I wanted to go back to the early days a little bit. So I know that John Peel was the first DJ to play your single 1am on national radio, and like right back in the early days as well, you were like, you created like 30 CDs that you sent out. One of them went to Glastonbury, and you got on the bill, Michael Eavis. So yeah, tell us about like some of the lucky breaks you had and how much you were grafting. I mean, sending out CDs, that is like nostalgia there.
So old school. Charlotte, you were great at sort of going online and getting all the addresses of the promoters in London. And Charlotte, you had this, do you still have that big book?
Do you know what? I don't know. The book of venues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
You have to try and find that. But yeah, that's how old we are. Yeah, you used to send off your demo CD to venues to get play. But yeah, we just constantly did it. Billy recorded, even back then, Billy was producing our demos in his parents' house. That used to had little hatch roofs the kitchen. We'd like run cables through to there, and then we'd send off all these CDs just because we thought like the more we send, the more likely we are to get a response. If we sent off like 30, maybe we'll get one. Maybe someone will come back.
Yeah, exactly.
So we just like obsessively did that, and like went and like, because we were still at school, so we went and did these things like after school.
God, a lot of the time, weren't we?
Yeah, a lot of the time it was like 18 plus venues, so we weren't even supposed to be in there.
Yeah. I remember we had like an 18th birthday party for Josh at the Buffalo Bar in London, which used to be this incredible, like it was the size of this tiny room. I'm in here at the moment. But we were holding Josh's 18th birthday party there, and the owner of the bar came up and went, his 18th, you've been playing here for 2 years. Like, and it was like, Josh was 16 playing the drums, but he was quite hairy, so he could get away with it. But yeah, a lot of the CDs that people post online of like, oh, I've got your demo from 2004, it's got my mum's handwriting on it, because she would help us label it, like, oh, the Subways Rock and Roll Queen, come visit us at www.thesubways.net, and we've still got that webpage. So
yeah, I noticed that. I read that you got the subways.net, but like back in the early days when you were just like, the internet's going to be a big thing.
Yeah.
Now you've got it.
We've got it for like £5. So yeah, we worked hard at sending those demos out, and in order to kind of pay my parents back, because my parents bought me the recording unit that I used. Like,
wow, right. Yeah, you need that initial investment, don't you?
You do. And we were so lucky, that this is what really frightens me at the moment about, the cuts to arts funding, is that a lot of young bands aren't going to have the opportunities that we had when we were younger to, have access to these spaces
venues,
for
the
expression.
magazines, everything's so different now. It's all,
yeah.
I mean, even if you, instead of like getting interviewed at magazines like you used to, you now go around the blogs. It's endless, and it's like so hard to like know which ones are right for you, and it just looks legit, and they get loads of big interviews, but they actually are not really doing that great. So yeah, you got to be careful nowadays.
Exactly. It is so tough. And what we did in those early days is, we'd get these demos together, and we'd just, like Charlotte said, send them out en masse. And it used to be, one or two would get back in contact, and the more demos we made, the more songs we made. We'd send 30 demos out, and we were getting like 30 gig offers. So we'd kind of just go, right, let's plan the next 2 months of gigs. And I had a band over my parents' house because I was trying to earn a bit of money to pay back for this recorder that they'd bought for us. And one of the bands, I was like, oh, so, once I've printed this CD for you, what are you going to do with it? I've got a list of venues you can send it out to. And they're like, great, we'll take a couple of those. But mainly we're going to send it off to this competition up in Glastonbury. And if they like your demo, they'll put you on one of their stages at Glastonbury. I was like, oh my God, we've got to do this. This sounds amazing. And we had by that time like 7 demos. So we put the best 3 songs of all those demos on this one CD and sent that out amongst the 30 other CDs we were sending out to London venues. And like 2 weeks later, we got this phone call from a guy called Wes White, who's still kind of a big part of Glastonbury Festival. He said, I've just listened to this CD. This is great. You've got to come and play Michael's Working Men's Club in Pilton. And he's having 6 other bands along. And if he really likes you, he'll pick you. So we turned up, just like 3 of us. So we're like these skinny little kids, and there are all these other bands, like actual grown-up people.
You had the golden song, Rock and Roll Queen.
Yeah, we played. Yeah, one of them was Rock and Roll Queen. We played Oh Yeah, Rock and Roll Queen, and at 1 a.m. And
you had the hits.
we only had 3 songs to play, so we played those 3 songs, and they just smashed our equipment.
Yeah.
And then
remember me.
Exactly, that's it. And the next thing I know, I'm like kind of piecing my guitar together again and putting it away in my guitar case, and Michael Levis has jumped on stage and gone, you've got the gig, you're playing, it's fine.
Yeah.
So that was it. We played Glastonbury Festival in 2004, and that was really, we were really lucky, because it was like converging with a time when we were sort of talking to labels, and we'd we had a couple of major labels who were kind of emailing us every couple of weeks going, when's your next
couple
gig?
There's only about 3 in there.
Well, yeah, in those days there were like 5 or 6.
Sony, Warner, EMI, I don't know, Virgin.
And they've like most of them have converged, like the 2 of the
EMI
labels that were
and
2
Warner.
of the labels, Sony, BMG, so we had Sony and BMG, and then like two years later we were like, oh, they're one company now. So we had some of those. Sorry, my dog's howling in the back there. We had some of those come into our gigs, and by the time we'd played Glastonbury and booked our tour, they were visiting us whilst we went out on tour on this 40-day tour around the UK. And so, like I said earlier, by the time we finished that tour in Nottingham, we were pretty much signing the dotted line. And so
Wicked.
we've been really lucky. I mean, we've been massively lucky in that we've had my parents. My dad has been our drum technician for almost
Really?
all our career. Yeah, he's
That's
just
great.
retired. Like he's like, I'm too old for this now, mate. I can't
Oh,
do it
bless.
anymore. So he's like, well, yeah, you know, give me the gold-plated Rolex when the next contract comes in.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Yeah. And mum was really supportive. She used to sell our merch, our London gigs, and eventually she was like,
Wow.
I can't do this anymore, mate. I'm gonna have to go home. You have to get someone else. Yeah,
You had your
we've
hardcore team.
yeah, hardcore family team.
Oh,
And we've got some incredible fans who've stayed with us the whole journey, and we've got some incredible new fans who are always joining us with every single album. So yeah, almost
Yeah.
feel undeserving of it, but thank you.
no, definitely. I just wanted to ask you a little bit about being signed to a major label, because obviously it was kind of a glory period where there was a lot more money in the industry at that time. You were on Warner Brothers Records, and I know that a lot of people have come out and said they've had like negative experiences, they've lost their back catalogue, or they've been toured into the ground. I mean, you guys had like an amazing attitude where you were like, yes, we'll tour for 18 months, and you were quite happy about it. So I mean, nowadays you're on Alco Pop. Do you think that's the way forward, to like do the major label, get the exposure, and then like try and retain your own like smaller label after that?
I think that's a pretty good idea, actually. If we'd have planned it, that would have been a good way to do it. Well, the thing is that we made sure that we were signed by somebody who doesn't want to look at us as much as an investment as they did. Just they really liked us. Like they
Yeah.
liked us as people. We knew their family, you know, we got to know them. Our whole team became friends. We were signed by Corder Marshall, who signed Muse, Garbage, Ash. And
Wicked.
we're huge fans of those bands. And we were like, there's pretty good precedent there of, you know, long lasting bands who have a corpus of, you know, many albums and, you know, touring history. And we loved touring. We've never quite understood it, where bands have gone, we've been over toured. I mean, we were begging our record label to get us more tours. Like we would always be saying to our manager, when we get home, you know, we'd have a shower, go to the pub, have a meal out with our mates, and then we'd be like, when's the next tour?
Yeah.
You know, what are we going to do? Yeah,
So you
it's
were
kind of,
built for it, really.
yeah, we started the band because we wanted to be on stage. You know, we started the band because our local venue, the Square in Harlow in Essex, had a rock competition, and one of my mates who was in a band, I had always wanted to be in a band. He was drummer in his big brother's band, and they were playing up at the Square. I was like, I want to play at the Square. So, you know, that's when I got Josh and Charlotte together. I was like, right, we're going to get a bunch of songs together, and then we're going to go and play the Square. It was a horrible gig, like one of the worst feelings I've ever had in my entire life
Oh,
playing that set, because we were so awful. I got off stage and it was either like, we could never do this again. I felt so bad during that performance. I felt so unworthy of being on that stage. I felt so ridiculous. Or we're going to turn up to rehearsal the next day and we're going to make sure that that never happens again. I mean, Josh and Charlotte were great. I was terrible. You know, my guitar was out of tune. My singing was out of tune. I wasn't there, you know, I wasn't there. And I was just like, no, actually, I want to do this. This is something I want to do every day. So, yeah, you know, we're in a band because we love playing live gigs, and it's almost like we deal with being in the studio so that eventually we can go back out on tour,
yeah.
and talk about music. You know, we love interviews, we love talking to people about music and ideas and all that stuff. So yeah, we feel blessed. So yeah, you know, we're with Alco Pop at the moment, and they're a great bunch of people. And Charlotte, you can talk as well about you. We've both been pretty struck by how many ideas they've come up with and how passionate they are about this project.
Yeah, I think over the course of our career, the time, kind of no matter whether it's been a major label or a small label we've been with, it's been about the people that have been working it, and the enthusiasm and the passion and the ideas from those people, that's always been the most exciting time. So when we first signed to Warner for our first album, like our A&R guy, the people working in the press department, the radio department, everyone around it was just so enthusiastic and loved us, and we all love them, we all love working together, and it was just a really wonderful time. And now I kind of feel like we've found that again with Alcopop. Like Jack, who works there, is so enthusiastic, and he just comes up with ideas for like that we would never come up with, for different ways that we could promote it, or different people we could talk to, or just kind of thinking about it in a way that musicians don't, which I think is really important, to bring that as well. And he got on board someone really great to do the artwork, Ree, and someone really amazing to do the video, Ben. And this is getting us excited too. It's making us excited about the campaign, not just making the songs, but excited about promoting it and getting it out to people as well, which makes it a lot of fun too.
Yeah, totally. And there's a line that you cross between, you know, a label that think of you as a product, like you mentioned earlier, and they think of your music as a product, and these people who are just like, let's be a bit artistic, let's give out a free fanzine or a free badge or a free pencil with this, or a sticker, and just like give a bit extra to the fan, because it means so much to the fan. But like, it's something that maybe a different type of record label might say, oh, well, that's going to cost, you know, £5,000, we're not doing that, you know. So it's cool to see the more creative ideas.
I think it's about like enjoying the process as well. As exactly as you say, you could sort of look at the numbers and go, that's not necessarily going to work out numbers wise. And you could look at it and go, that's a worthy investment because we're doing something. Like, you're spending money, you're not getting money back, but you're doing something, like you're giving, you know? And I think one of the great things about kind of, you know, touring the world and making records and being a part of people's lives and having our fans' lives as part of our lives is that you realize that there's a real give and take going on, that people contact you. And like someone last night during a live Zoom event, we were playing at Banquet Records in Kingston, and they said, my wife and I, we're walking down the aisle together to Rock and Roll Queen. And it was just like, why? Thank you thank you for letting us be such an important part in your life. That is incredible. And that it's a giving thing that kind of makes being in this world just that little bit better, you know.
So I honestly was thinking of having it as me and my partner engaged. I was our first dance song, and then I was like, that's going to come across as really narcissistic on my part.
Do it. Always do
queen,
it.
Everybody.
You are the Rock and Roll Queen.
You are.
That's
own it.
Yeah. But that's it. Like, we wrote that song because we want people to feel like they are, you know.
Yeah, that song gives me goosebumps. It's awesome.
Amazing. Thank you so much. That's so cool.
And it was perfect in the Guy Ritchie film as well, Rock and Roll. That was
cool. We were so pleased to be in that film. Like, we were recording our second album over in Los Angeles with Butch Vig, and we were having an amazing time.
Name drop.
Like, honestly, every single time we so cool. With Butch Vig. So we, you know, I woke up one morning and our manager bang 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 knocked on the door. He's like, you've got to get up, Guy Ritchie's calling in 10 minutes. I was like, what? That's such a weird sentence to tell me this early in the morning. So I got up and waited for the call, and he said, hi Billy, it's Guy Ritchie, I've got this new movie called Rock and Roll. I was like, great title. And he said, I've been watching YouTube videos of you performing Rock and Roll Queen live, and I thought it'd be a great idea not just to have your song in the movie, but to have you in the movie. I was like, we're in, this is great, we're doing this. So he brought up, it was like, deal done. Like, you know, we'll do this for free. We didn't do it for free, but you know. So he turned up. Yeah, I would have.
On you, Guy Ritchie.
Suckers paid us. They turned up
I've had
to
gigs like that, and I'm just like, I'm on holiday, basically. This is great.
Yeah, you're like, you're doing us a favor. You're acting like we're doing you a favor. You're doing us a favor here. So he turned up with his film crew at Bournemouth Fire Station. We were playing a bunch of gigs before we were doing Reading and Leeds in 2007. And honestly, like, Guy Ritchie,
40,000 people, wasn't it, Reading Festival?
Oh yeah, it was like we had such an amazing couple of summers. Like,
I saw that you had Jack Sparrow in the audience, and then you a police officer just pulled his car over and just sat and like listening to Rock and Roll Queen, like in the footage. It's mad.
We love it. We like, do you know what I really love at the live gigs is when you see those people in those full body suits. I always forget the name. Yeah, and I'm like, who has the dedication to wear those at a festival? I would be so self-conscious. But yeah, so you know, Guy Ritchie turned up with his film crew and he filmed it, and he is so gorgeous, man. Like he is everything you want in a dude. Like he's tall, he's big, he's muscly, he's intelligent, he's handsome, well spoken. But anyway, we went to the we went to the what do they call them? Charlotte, what do they call them? Premieres in Leicester Square.
Yeah.
And I on the way up, I said to my wife, I was like, well, she asked me, she was like, what do you think the song's going to be used in? Is it going to be a love scene? And I was like, do you know what? It's been used in quite a lot of love scenes. I really hope someone's getting done
shooting
in.
Scene.
Yeah, like something really violent happens. And it turns out someone gets killed with a pencil. So I was sitting there.
I'll take that.
Going, yeah, I was looking at her going, it's happening. Someone's getting killed. Yeah, that was a cracking experience. Yeah, loved it.
Amazing. All right, guys, I'll wrap it up soon, but I've got a couple more questions for you. So, I mean, you mentioned a little bit about like mental health earlier and how you live to be on the road. I mean, I personally have took it pretty. I've just been all over the place through lockdown. It's been a whole year in the UK where we've just been stuck in the house. And even now, everyone seems to be getting back to normal. Like there's traffic again, but we're not. We're like still waiting. So how's it been for you guys, and what's kept you going?
So I think one of the main things that kept us going is we kept recording our 5th album because we were on we were on tour to celebrate 15 years of Drum for Eternity when everything went to shit basically, and we all had to go home, and we had like the album was in various states. Like some songs had just drums, some songs maybe had drums and bass, some songs maybe had everything on. So it was kind of quite frustrating because we were like halfway like there really
of everything.
Like it felt like didn't really want to, just because we planned to come back from the tour and then in between summer festivals and stuff keep working on it and eventually finish it. So we can, even though we couldn't all, because I live in Sheffield, Billy's in Hertfordshire and Josh is in France, we couldn't all be together, so we had to kind of figure out a way to do it from home, which I'm so glad we did, because it kind of gave us all, it was really nice to have something to think about which was about the future and kind of not about the present, and not be kind of dwelling on, well, we're all stuck at home and this really sucks. Like we're actually working on something that's going to come out once this is all over, and that was really positive.
I've got to 100% agree. I mean, I think the thing that's carried me through, and I probably would have crumbled much sooner and much worse if I didn't have this. We've got a new album we're working towards at some point on the horizon that we're just like really hopeful about, and the more we sort of, like Charlotte said, it was kind of in these disparate elements of like the semi-completion, but the more we like finished a song, we were like, God, that's a really good song. Like this is one of the best songs we've ever made. One of the last
feeling.
Isn't it? You feel like such a sense of this, like I always split into two halves. I was like, this is amazing, like this is such a great song, but then I'm also like, it's going to be so long until people hear this song, and I want everyone to hear it now, and you just get so frustrated and anxious. You're like, what if the world explodes before people hear this song? Just like these weird thoughts that occur in your head.
You want it out.
So, but we were really lucky. I mean, we did lose our previous studio space, and there were some tears, because we had to sell off a bunch of recording equipment, like all of it actually. And luckily in Welwyn Garden City, our manager was just like, we found this room, it's going, they need someone to be permanently in there, and it's going at this price. I was like, just take it, I need somewhere. And it happened to be a really great space amongst a great bunch of people, and there's like a whole community now that I'm part of in this studio space that I didn't have before, and I'm kind of like, it's all worked out really nicely. But there was a really rocky part where we were like, oh, so the tour's cancelled, we've lost our studio space, we've had to sell off all our recording equipment, and now it just feels like things are kind of piecing themselves back together again. But whilst I'm like, yeah, things are kind of getting back to normal and gigs are on the horizon, I'm starting to feel really anxious because I don't know if I'm ready for social mingling or anything like that. I'm not even just like walking down the street where there are loads of people. I don't know how I'm going to work that out. And there's almost like, I feel I'm incapable or like unworthy of being able to offer any advice because I'm like, I don't know. Everyone's situation is so different. Everyone's anxiety levels are so different, and they're all like triggered by loads of different things because this thing has been so global. It's been so universal. You know, it's not just affected like everyone around the world. It's affected them in so many different ways. And every single person, there are like 4 or 5 factors as to why they're experiencing anxiety or concern, or and a lot of it's to do with like financial situation, you know, working environments, not being able to contact family or friends or just be around them. All the stuff that we took for granted has just been taken from us, and we kind of like, are we going to be thankful when they come back, or are we just going to be really scared about being in that, you know, even just like being at a gig and standing there with loads of people around me, I'm just going to be like, what do I do? Like, what do I do with my hands? What do I say hello to this person? So yeah, it's gonna be crazy.
It's a funny one. It's like if you drop something in the supermarket now, like no one picks it up for you, and I found that really weird. Like like someone dropped something near me, and I was like,
yeah,
do they
I
want
to help you. Yeah. I want to pick this up for you, but I'd be doing us both a disservice if I did that. But at the same time, I feel like a dick because I'm not doing it. It's like all these really weird tensions going on.
Yeah, there's a lot. It's a big change, but I think, like you said, hopefully good things can come from the bad. Like, you would have never made the changes that you've made if you hadn't, and all of the touring would be in the past for your 20th anniversary if you didn't. You've now got it to look forward to, so take like small like graces from it, I suppose. And you've had a chance to like change gear and learn new stuff. Like I just taught myself sound production, and I said to my boyfriend, I was like, I think I've just taught myself a degree. I just literally did about 20 online courses and just writing loads of songs and learning all this stuff. And I was like,
good for you.
I would never have ever had time to do that otherwise. So
yeah.
Congratulations. That's amazing. I mean, it is, you know, as a producer and mixer, it is like, it's so wonderful,
serious
isn't
stuff.
it?
Yeah.
It's really difficult, but it's so rewarding. So yeah, best of luck. I'd love to hear your stuff at some point.
Yeah, man, definitely. I'll keep in touch with you.
Wicked.
All right, so just to end off, thank you so much for your time. You've given me loads of time, and you've been absolutely amazing, upbeat, and just touched on so many incredible subjects. So thank you so much. Let's talk about the tour, which is coming up September, October 2021, Young for Eternity anniversary.
So we're really hopeful that this tour may go ahead. So we were halfway through it when COVID hit. So we're not even halfway through, actually. We've done one weekend, we did 3 shows. And so this is us hopefully getting the chance to finish it. Near the time, we are definitely going to need some warm-up shows.
Yeah.
So people keep a lookout if you want to come twice. There'll be a few more shows announced around it pretty soon. But yeah, fingers crossed we can get out and do it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And Art Brut are coming with you too.
Yep, we've got Art Brut. Yeah,
one of our all-time favorite bands.
Yeah, those guys are great.
Yeah, and thank you so much for such a wonderful experience today with this interview. It's been such a lovely conversation. So.
Oh, nice one, man. Thanks so much, and yeah, best of luck. I'll see you on the tour, and thanks so much. It's been brilliant.
Wicked.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you.
Have a great rest of your day. Take care.
You too. All the best.
Hey guys, DJ Paula Frost here from Way Out Radio, the one and only punk and reggae station, broadcasting every week. Go to wayoutradio.com for more. So I just want to tell you guys about the brand new fan club we've just launched. It's absolutely amazing. You can choose from contributing £5, £10 or £20 per month to keep the station alive, pay our guests handsomely, and keep music money in the musician's pocket and in the punk world and in the reggae world. So find out more about that at wayoutradio.com. Thank you very much.